you're watching the Urban Debate in Mirror Now. I'm Faye D'Souza. There's news now that will make you cringe. Starting the 1st of April this year with the new financial year, banks will charge you more to simply keep your money in the account. If you want to withdraw your money, they'll charge you as well. And what's more, they will now charge you if you don't maintain a minimum balance in several bank accounts. If you approach your bank and ask for them to reset your interest rates on your home loan down to a lower rate, they will charge you for that as well. You have to pay for almost everything, whether that's a checkbook or your simple request that you put in. Here's a special report on how life is different after the 1st of April.
Starting the 1st of April 2017, your bank will charge you for all banking services. Be it cash withdrawal, deposits, or even ATM transactions. Now the amount differs from bank to bank.
If bank is doing it arbitrarily, it's not fair. Also, if they are not giving a notice period saying that we will charge after 3 months or 6 months, I don't think it's an appropriate thing to do.
While many customers are not aware of the hidden charges, experts believe it is unfair for banks to not communicate the same to them. For instance, HDFC Bank in an email charged customers for its virtual relationship manager program. People who didn't know about this practice ended up paying money without their knowledge.
They should allow some amount of percolation of facts, and they should allow active communication. So when the banks want to collect money from you, they have ways and means of doing it, and they can spend a little bit of effort if they really want to start doing this.
Not just this. While home loan borrowers celebrated when the RBI reduced interest rates in January this year, existing borrowers have still not benefited from the rate cut. Let's take an example. If you have a 50 lakh loan with a tenure of 20 years at 8.5%, your monthly installment would amount to 43,400. Now the same loan at 9.5% would be 46,600. Essentially, had you got the benefit of the lowered rates, you would have saved at least 38,400 per year.
You may want to move out, but go and talk to bank and say, look, I want to move out. And do you want to settle it and give me a better deal right now, or do I move out?
When Mirror Now contacted Axis Bank, ICICI, HDFC and SBI, we got a response from SBI and I quote, in case the existing borrowers whose loan is linked to base rate desires to switch over to MCLR structure without any change in the contracted effective interest rate, no switchover fee is payable. But if they want to reduce interest rate, then a nominal switchover fee is payable. Bank is actually sacrificing a significant portion of its rightful interest income over residual tenor of the loan. And the switchover fee is only a small token compensation of the overall sacrifice being offered to be made by the bank. Bureau Report, Mirror Now.
Well, this is a campaign we've been running now for several weeks, and we intend to continue running it until the government steps in or the RBI steps in and actually does its job. The RBI's job, apart from regulating the financial, the banking sector, also includes customer protection, a job that the RBI seems to have sidestepped and ignored or forgotten about entirely. Currently, what's happening is we have banks across the board charging us as customers for things that should technically be free. If I want to withdraw money from my bank account more than 3 times in a month, I don't understand why most of the banks are charging me 150 rupees per transaction for simply taking my own money out of my own bank account. I don't understand where a bank like SBI suddenly decided that we need to maintain a minimum balance of between 5,000 rupees in urban India, 2,000 rupees and 1,000 rupees in rural India. If you don't maintain that minimum balance, they'll start deducting money out of your account. There are charges now for almost everything, services that we're used to getting for free. And here's the thing. If you decide you don't want to pay these fees, where will you go? All the banks are charging you, effectively functioning like a cartel. Another thing that the RBI is completely ignoring. When is the RBI going to do its job? And should the banks be allowed to charge customers in this rather unethical manner? That's the question we're asking this evening, and our phone lines are open. Remember, you are a customer. We're all customers of one bank or the other. We do not have the choice of living unbanked. We have to use their services. They're just taking advantage of a situation to make more money. Joining me on the show this evening, Harsh Rungta, who is a SEBI-registered advisor. Gopal Krishna Agarwal from the BJP, who's been kind enough to come in and listen to our concerns. We're hoping he will carry them to the government. Sucheta Dalal, Managing Editor, Money Life, and Trustee at Money Life India, which is an NGO that's fighting right now to stop these practices of banks. Dhirendra Kumar, CEO of Value Research. Karthik Zaveri, Founder and Director of Transcend Consulting. And Vishwas Uktagi is the General Secretary of the Maharashtra State Bank Employees Federation. He's also Vice President of the All India Bank Employees Association. Harsh Rungta, we've talked about this enough. We're not getting any sort of reaction.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm so glad that
let me point out, the reaction is coming from the audience. We've had tremendous number of people getting in touch with us on social networking saying, how can we join this campaign? The reaction that we're not getting is from the banking sector or from the RBI.
Absolutely, I completely agree, and I think one of the things that the political parties, and hopefully we have the ruling party's representative here today, one of the things that we must realize is that the bank clients are voters too, and today they're no longer that small. I mean, BJP does listen to, and I hope they listen to middle class people, and this affects even what shall I say, lower income people, not just the middle income people. Clearly, we are being asked to put our trust into banks. We want to move towards a less cash society. When I want to move to a less cash society, I have to put my money in the financial systems. And the faith in the financial systems is being continuously undermined by charges, by unfair dealings while in loans. I mean, these have all been there. They have been commented upon by RBI committees, by government committees, and yet absolutely nothing is being done. I mean, you have been carrying on a campaign. The signature petition, I think, has got, I don't know what the latest score is,
we'll get those numbers from Sucheta Dalal.
Very clearly, I think the political establishment has to get in.
Needs to take cognizance.
The RBI has completely abdicated its responsibility. I think it is about time the political parties. This is a valuable audience, and I would want, other things,
let me just point
parties.
out, I'm going to go over to Sucheta Dalal. I know that she's received 33,000 sign-ons for her petition to regulate these sort of charges by banks. We've received over 100,000, over 1 lakh views on a video that we put out asking people to be more aware of the banking charges, because this is the kind of angst that we're seeing. And just to bring our viewers up to date, if you didn't already know it, SBI has released new rules from the 1st of April. 3 deposits into your account are free. After that, every time you deposit 3 more, you will have to pay 50 rupees. You're going to charge me money to deposit money in my own account? That makes absolutely no sense. A minimum balance of 5,000 rupees has to be maintained if you live in a metro, 3,000 rupees in a city or a town, 2,000 rupees in a semi-urban area, and 1,000 rupees balance to be maintained in village branch holding accounts. With what conscience is the RBI, is the SBI, Sucheta Dalal, going to charge people for letting their balance fall lower than 1,000 rupees in rural India?
Absolutely, Faye. It's so unfair, and I think, we have a friend from the BJP here today. I think he should convey that the numbers have now picked up. The Change.org petition has 65,000 signatures already, and I think they're rising fast. In the morning, it's just in one day, it's almost doubled. I think that's equal to 1 parliamentary constituency at least. We can win that in 65. So it's time the government starts paying attention to us. The memorandum reached the Finance Ministry on 23rd March. It reached the RBI on 23rd March. And there's absolutely no reaction. They're just keeping quiet. I don't know what they're waiting for. Until people take to the streets and do a morcha, is that when the government is going to wake up? And I think there's another factor. I think all the banks, apart from the cartel, which has been going on for the last 3-4 years, the banks are behaving as though no regulator exists. Today everybody in the RBI has got a fat increment. Let them start paying a little attention to their work now. because they can't even complain about salaries. Because you know what the banks are doing? They are saying that we don't even need to have money in our ATMs. Our ATMs don't have to work. And if you look at a story we put out today, over 31st March and 1st April, a lot of people couldn't access their net banking accounts. So there's no concept of lender's liability. The bank is not even bound to have money in the ATM. You know, they're going to charge you if you use it more than 3 times, but there's no reverse obligation that they have to function. You have to be able to access your net banking all the time, and you have to be able to get money when you want to withdraw it. I think this is a basic function of the regulator. I'm just so appalled at how rapidly it's degenerating from one day to another.
You know, Sucheta's right. Over the weekend, over the 31st of March and the 1st of April, a lot of the ATMs had no cash in it. A lot of salaries had not been credited into their accounts. A lot of people didn't have access to their own money. Dhirendra Kumar, there's nobody pulling up the banks. I didn't read a story in the newspaper. We didn't hear about it. We didn't hear the RBI put out a notice saying we've asked the banks for a justification, for an answer to why this was done, why there was no, why they were not on top of things over the end of the year. But I want to come back to the same thing. Dhirendra Kumar, if we're talking about somebody who lives in rural India, who has a State Bank of India account, who is now being told you have to maintain 1,000 rupees minimum balance, where is that person going to get 1,000 rupees from that they're never going to withdraw, which means they need to have 1,000 rupees that they never need? Is that fair?
It's grossly unfair, and I think this is time, when RBI wakes up, and it is responsibility of the government. Post demonetization and through the phase of demonetization, the government time and again said that why we should be keeping our money in the bank, and our money in the bank will be safe. That should be the default way of transacting with any of transaction. So at this point, when the government is working hard to encourage all ways and means to encourage this looks unfair, and I have absolutely no problem with with cost. Banks have a cost, but is there a basis to it? Have they done something about it? Has there been a cost? How do you apportion the cost? And who has done the auditing? And if you ask for the explanation, you will get a legal explanation. There will be a basis to it. And this is where the regulation comes in. This is where the regulator comes in. I have heard about mutual funds time and again that it costs money to manage the investors' money. But then this is where SEBI comes into play, and they set the rules. I haven't seen, we have come across situation where RBI Deputy Governor has said that they have been short on customer protection, customer guarding their interest. Particularly, and these costs are just going out of hand. And many situations we have come across where the bank's behavior is almost like that of a pickpocket, where some cost, something is debited from my account because they have access to my wallet. And I have been arguing 2-3 things. One is that I want to know the basis of the cost, and will it be a function of the scale? Will it be a function of the size of the bank? Because then they have the economies of scale, yes, and it should be proportionately lower.
That's very well said.
Should the bank be authorized to anything? Authorized to debit any money from my bank account without my express approval?
That's very well said. And the case that Dhirendra is talking about, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, is a particular case with HDFC Bank, where emails were sent out to customers saying, if you don't want this service, then scroll to the bottom of this email and click on a button that says, I don't want this service. Now, if you don't read that entire email and click on that button, you're automatically getting, you're being charged 100 rupees per quarter. That's the email that you're looking at on your screen right now. That's how far you have to scroll before you reach a button that says that you don't want the service. And if you don't click on that button, automatically by default the bank will deduct 100 rupees out of your account every quarter. Now it's this sort of behavior that is being questioned. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, you've heard the arguments that the experts are being making, and there are more, and there will be people on the phone line. But don't you think it's time the government steps in, or the finance ministry steps in and says or does something?
Definitely, I understand that there is a problem in this, because I am not the spokesperson of the banks, and I am also a citizen of the country. I also run an account I also feel the pinch. That's the issue, that some of the charges with regard to private banks, were problems like this, that Citibank, other banks were charging without disclosing. People were complaining that they were not disclosing properly. Then they were charging with regard to several issues, and which explanation came later. These kind of issues were there with many of the private banks, and the public sector banks were not charging. Now SBI had taken a lead in charges, but the issue is, we have to understand, though I do not, I am not a spokesperson of bank, and I accept the problems of the people. There should be no charges, less charges, but the issue is with regard to, it's a complicated issue. You need a technology driven financial services, where if you want to improve services, you have to invest a lot on the banking sector. You have to invest a lot on the technology, you have to invest on the securities, cyber securities, you have to invest on servicing. But these are the issues, they have to be considered, and I think the government has said that when we move to the digital economy, the cost of transactions are there, they have to be shared between the
No. To Gopal Krishna Agarwal, if I'm very clear about this, there was a very clear understanding during the demonetization activity.
It's unbelievable what he's saying.
Gopal Krishna Agarwal, there was a very clear understanding during the demonetization activity that with so much money coming into the banking system, that the banking system would be strengthened. I remember some people who even told us that the need that public sector banks have to be capitalized out of taxpayer money will be taken away completely because of the kind of money that was flowing into the system during demonetization. Now, forget all of that. You're charging us now. These banks are charging us 100 rupees.
Any deposit?
Can I make a point?
Yeah, Sucheta Dalal, these banks are now charging us 100 rupees per transaction, 150 rupees per transaction in order to put in services. I think that's completely unfair.
Can I complete?
Gopal Krishna Agarwal, respond. Let Sucheta Dalal have her say, and then I'll come back to you. Sucheta Dalal.
Okay, I was just pointing out that the SBI chairman says that, they're so flush with money that every account has over 20,000 rupees. So now she's going to dump credit cards on people and get them into debt. So you can't have both arguments. You can't say we have no money, their costs are high, and you're also flush with funds. Okay? The government has to come clean on what this is, because after demonetization, there was an enormous amounts of money in banks. Banks have to tell us, do you have excess money? Do you have less money? You're anyway paying us only 4%. Is it that you can't do your core job of lending and earning money, so you will only pick our pocket? And if the previous speaker is right, that means for every change in technology and going digital, we the consumers are going to pay. I would rather keep my money at home then. I'll keep some in the bank and I'll keep the rest under my pillow and pay cash. Because if they can't manage technology, let them do away with technology. Don't we have a choice, or will it be forced down our throats?
Sucheta, you don't have a choice. If you keep cash more than 3 lakhs or more than 2 lakhs now, you're going to be questioned.
And at the end, Karthik Zaveri, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I'll come to you. Karthik Zaveri, the banks keep telling us that tech-enabled transactions are cheaper for them. That if we stay home and we use more of the technology, that it's cheaper for them. How could they also be charging us? It's defeating the purpose. At what point does the customer benefit from all of this? At what point do I benefit from standing in line during demonetization? At what point do I benefit from trying to go cashless? How can you continuously penalize the customer? I think it's unfair. And let's be honest, Karthik Zaveri, about the NPAs, about the bad decisions these banks made that brought them to this point to begin with.
Absolutely. See, in some sense, it's very clear, right, that they are trying to augment their balance sheet and their profit and loss for the year by doing this. Now, we don't have a problem per se, but let me sort of pause here for a minute. Banks were not set up to become charitable, so they can charge. But what's happening here is we are talking to faceless organizations. We are talking and we are living in a situation where we have absolutely no sort of recourse. There is nobody to speak to. There is only a call center to speak to. Even if you have a tiniest of problem, there is no answers that you're going to get. Start going down the value chains. It's really difficult for people who are actually dealing and who are trying to change their habits coming into the banking system, and then for them, they are going to be inconvenienced already through demonetization, and now they're going to be inconvenienced more for depositing and withdrawal. So that, I think, is really sad. And the way we don't have a recourse mechanism, RBI doesn't listen to you. There is no there is an ombudsman system, okay, but that ombudsman system also is extremely prohibitive. It doesn't really address.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't answer questions to your interest rate movements and your deposit and why am I being charged. Like somebody mentioned, we need to have an express written consent. Now, the thing is, if I am going to pay charges, I should also be treated in a fair manner and I should also be having to maintain a certain amount of deposit. But then if you want to have financial inclusion happening on such a huge grand basis,
this is why I'm so glad that Mr. Uthaki is here with us today. Vishwas Uthaki, tell us this. When you have a pensioner...
Can I correct the narrative?
Yeah, I'll come back to you. But I just want to get one more voice in, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, and then I'll come back to you. Vishwas Uthaki, when you have a pensioner living in semi-urban or in rural India, getting a pension of 4,000 rupees a month, and we know there are several of those, can they afford to leave 1,000 rupees in their bank account? When you have someone who's going to college, in a city when their parents live in rural India and they're transferring money to them every month, can they afford to leave 5,000 rupees untouched in that bank account? Do we have, how many people who hold accounts with SBI can afford to just leave money untouched?
See, most of the government pensioners or any other bank pensioners or any other system pensioners, they have the bank accounts and they get the pension through the banking system. Question is where the rich or the poor. The question is why a bank account holder who is a depositor should be taxed for withdrawing his own money
and for depositing his money.
Now the question is, this is not called a service because he is withdrawing his money, he is putting his money. Service charge is basically taken from one who gets the term loan account or cash credit account or the current account or some sort of a services like draft and other things. So service charges concept itself is a sort of an income earning method for the banks. Now here, I am a depositor, why I should be taxed? Whether I am a rich or poor, that's a different matter. Whether I am a normal depositor or I am a pensioner, that's a different matter. Question is why I should pay with tax, what kind of a service bank is giving to me? So the question, this is one question. Secondly, I am making a larger issue. See, the technology is taking place right from 2000 onwards in the banking system. Earlier it was in the private banking system. Now it is almost everywhere in the cooperative, private sector and public sector, everywhere. Now question is the cost of technology is so much huge. So all that cost of technology is being recovered from the depositors and other clients. This kind of a transaction charge cost is to be recovered from the depositors. This cannot be acceptable and this has to be opposed. So far service charges from the people who were getting the loans and other things, it's okay. It is going from the British charges, British period also. But now depositors are being charged. It is like a jizya tax in the modern India, and that too in 21st century. It is recovering a transaction cost by the banker, which is not unacceptable. That's why depositors must get united and fight out.
We must point out here, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, that all these banks are doing it. All of them are doing it together. So there is nowhere for the customer to go. I can't walk into any of these banks tomorrow and say, I don't want your service. I think you're charging me unfairly. I'm taking my business elsewhere. There is nowhere else to take the business. They are running like a cartel, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. You wanted to respond. Go ahead.
No, now let me answer this. Give me some time. One thing is I am not the spokesperson of the bank, but second, I have to give some of the issues to be clarified is that SBI is only at present charging these charges in the public sector bank. Secondly is SBI has also said that Jan Dhan account are out of the charges of this purview. Second thing is what they are charging is after 3 transactions of cash withdrawal, that they have said any cash withdrawal after 3 free transactions per month, that is in addition to if anybody has a need for it, 3 transactions are sufficient. Second, the other point is that if you keep a minimum balance of 25,000, then the bank is not charging the transaction. Actually, the question is, just let me finish it. The question is, there are charges for every commercial activity that the bank is doing. They are a commercial entity. Now we are saying as a government that these charges have to be borne by 4 entities. One is the bank, one is the regulator, one is the government, one is the customer. These charges have to be divided between 4 people, and it will be seen over a period of time that they will settle down. Ultimately, we are moving to the economy where transaction charges, digital economy is low cost transaction. I told you that earlier a draft was required to be paid
What does it have to
250
do
or
with digital
300
economy?
rupees per draft. Now that draft you can get for 10,000. So no, ultimately the benefit of digital economy, low cost transaction will come over a period, and this cost will automatically reduce. Next is we are moving towards a low interest economy, and CASA deposit which the banks are getting, it is not for their capital account. It is, they have to bear some cost of interest on these deposits also. Though they are lower, they attract lower interest, but still they have to bear some cost on these deposits also. So this is not a completely free deposit that they are getting. They have a technology cost, they have a commercial transaction cost. These costs have to be justified among, distributed among various entities with the benefits of digital economy.
Gopal Krishna Agarwal.
Excuse me, I think
Gopal
you're
Krishna
giving
Agarwal. No. Let me point out to you. Let me point out to you, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Let me point out to you, Mr. Agarwal. Point number one. 1 second, sir. 1 second. 1 second. Point number one. You said that after 3 withdrawals of cash withdrawals, SBI will start charging for the 1 second. Sucheta, I'll come to you. They are also charging for after 3 deposits, which means I have a bank account and I have money. If I'm putting my own money into my own bank account, how can you charge me per deposit? What about those people who perhaps get paid by the week? How many weeks in a month? Those are 4. They will have to make 4 deposits. Unless you are expecting, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, let me finish. Unless you are expecting that those people will come once, pull out their entire cash savings from their account once in the beginning of the month and then use cash, in which case you are driving people back to the cashed system. Second point you made, you said if you maintain a minimum balance of 25,000 rupees, the bank will not charge you. Are we saying that banking is now fundamentally for those people who have 25,000 rupees to spare every month and they don't need to use that money? Also, if you're saying that we should
out of this purview,
if you're saying that four pillars of banking need to share the cost, then please, by all means, share the cost but regulate the cost. Where is the regulation? When a bank says 150 rupees after 4 transactions, who decided 150 rupees? Some of them are charging 100, some of them are charging 1,000 rupees after first 5 transactions, 100 rupees after first 4. Who's deciding? Where is the regulator's job in all of this? To actually regulate these charges and make it very clear to banks what they can and cannot charge. They cannot be coming up with this stuff on their own. Harshrungta.
I think this Jan Dhan account has, if you see SBI chairman's statement, she has said that the cost of Jan Dhan account is the reason we have to charge the other account holders. So, I mean, the Jan Dhan account being kept out of the so-called being kept out, effectively we are paying. And where has the government shared? The government wants us to move to digital transactions. What is the cost that the government has incurred? I think Mr. Agarwal just mentioned that 4 people are going to incur this cost. It doesn't look like that at all. What cost has the government incurred?
Sucheta Dalal.
I want to make one point, which is that Mr. Agarwal seems to have forgotten that the core job of the bank...
Go ahead, Sucheta.
Can I complete?
Go ahead, Sucheta.
So the core job of the bank is lending, and they have failed as lenders. Okay, so they have fat NPAs, they can't recover those. Their job is to assess and lend money. That's why they take money from us. They're giving us a small interest of 4%. They're lending it out at 10, 12, 15%. And they are supposed to meet all these costs in the spread. And because they need all kinds of money, they want the guy in the rural area who can keep 1,000 rupees in his account. They want someone like me who's probably got a few lakh rupees in the account, and they have someone with a few crores. This is the job of the banks, not to say, okay, we're running a cost-based service, we'll take your money, 4 people will apportion costs. This is misinformation. That's not the job of a bank. And they're bad at lending. They have NPAs. We are recapitalizing banks through the exchequer, which means again we are paying for it. So we'll pay transaction costs, we'll pay costs for every service, we'll get only 4% interest on our savings account, which they will now want to reduce further. What on earth is Mr. Agarwal talking about? Does he understand what is basic banking? Banking is to lend money smartly after collecting from us, the depositors. And they have failed there.
Okay, I just want to point out what Sucheta is saying, and she's saying something very, very powerful here. Like was told to us last year, that there are only 5.5 lakh people in this country who paid tax of more than 5 lakh rupees. 5 lakh people in a country of over 1 billion. So the rich are getting away with it, and a large portion of the country doesn't pay tax. It comes back to the middle class. The middle class that's paying taxes now is also going to bear the burden of the fact that these banks handed out loans to rich people who are never going to pay them back. They're now opening Jandan accounts for the poorest and not charging them. Who are they charging? They're charging the middle class. The same people who pay the income tax, TDS, straight out of your salary account, the same people who are paying service tax, the same people who are paying all of the other taxes will now also pay charges to subsidize the banking system and its bad decisions. Colonel Subramaniam is on the phone line from Andheri. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello. We can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, see, ma'am, I just want to ask one simple question.
Yes.
Just a simple question. The State Bank of India is charging 5,000 rupees, okay, minimum amount. They are such a third-class service. State Bank of India, they are giving such a third-class service. If you go to the bank, and you will see, they treat like as a beggar. They treat like as a beggar. The bank are charging 5,000 rupees minimum. They ever thought that there should be they should put some intelligence in what the bank staffs are doing, whether they are working or not working, how they are giving services. No, that they don't want to see, but they want to charge 5,000 rupees straight away. Modi is telling हम गरीब के साथ है. तो क्या गरीब के साथ? ये 5,000 rupees you have to keep minimum, okay, and that is गरीब के साथ. How come, ma'am? Now how they are?
Where's the service standard for the service that I'm paying for? Ranjit is on the phone line from Chennai. Ranjit, go ahead. Ranjit, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Go ahead, Ranjit.
Yeah, hi. I just have a small doubt with your conversation.
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
When I pay my tax and everything, bank is going and deducting, every quarterly they're deducting some amount of my some amount from my service taxes.
Yes.
When I can withdraw only 3 times in my service per month, and where do they give me a service? And why should I pay my service tax and yearly thrice they are deducting from my account? What are the service they are giving, and why they are deducting tax as well as the 150 rupees?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's exactly the problem that we are all trying to fight together, that on the commercial side, the banking, like I said, the bank is not here to do charity, we understand that. But all the commercial transactions are charging. Across the world also bank charge. But why are you charging on a uniform basis to all sections of the society? And why are you making these kind of blanket charges? That's
Karthik,
really the problem that we're trying to fight.
My point is, I'm okay with the bank charging us. I want regulation. Regulation should specify what they can and cannot charge us. I have one more phone call. Somshekhar is on the phone line from Mumbai. Somshekhar, very quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, we need the basis.
Good evening. This is Somshekhar. I am a proprietor of a small MSME company.
Yes.
And I'm really surprised, when the bank charges a small company for all kinds of services which they give, which they were giving it earlier free of cost. Now, for example, let me tell you, now we fill up tenders with government agencies and we need a what you call a solvency certificate. Now, for a 1 crore solvency certificate, the bank is charging me 25,000 rupees. Now, if I have to bid 10 tenders, I have to pay to the bank 25,000 into 10. How can a small contractor like me survive? Our Honorable Prime Minister is saying ease of doing business. Is this the ease of doing business? Is this the way the bank supports the MSME companies?
Absolutely. Very well. So I want to go to Dhirendra Kumar. Dhirendra Kumar, all we're asking for is clear regulation of what they can and cannot charge. And once somebody sits down and writes a regulation, then there has to be a clear justification for those charges.
No, absolutely. We need a very clear basis to the costs, and I don't know how these costs get determined. And there is also urgent need, going by the tendency of the bank, the essential financial inclusion program initiated by the government, post demonetization and all the claims that have been made. I think the government needs to specify and make corresponding, real changes in our banking laws, that what is the bare essential services must be rendered to every citizen, and what are the essential services which should be absolutely free of cost or at a predefined cost levels. Because the whole tendency to charge for the minimum number of withdrawal from the ATMs, the number of the essential services that we derive, where the government has a special interest to modernize our economy, I think it should be incentivized by the government and enacted by a law. Without law, I don't think there is any way we can enforce any such regulation without those real regulations in place. And by the with the backing of the government, we will just be debating and nothing will happen.
Harsh?
I think one reason why it raises hackles so much, this justification that commercial banks are commercial entities, perfectly acceptable. The reason it raises hackles so much is that when banks either do not deliver on what they are supposed to deliver or unfairly withhold a service. As you rightly pointed out, on 31st, I was not able to pay my service tax. Why? Because my bank's net banking didn't work. Now I have got to pay an interest to the government. So the government actually benefits. The bank actually benefits because it held on to my money.
Also tell us.
So where is the responsibility?
Where's the responsibility? Tell us this.
There has to be a flip side.
Harsh, tell us this. When an extremely wealthy businessman does not pay his loans back, what happens? And when people like you and I miss an EMI on our home loans, what happens to us?
Well, so I think it's a saying that when you owe money to a bank, don't owe small amounts, owe large amounts. Okay, because when you owe small amounts, you worry. When you owe large amounts, the bank worries. And I think that has been shown very clearly. Fortunately, that's a problem only with the public sector banks. It's not as high a problem with the private sector banks as with the public sector banks. So, I mean, okay, that's a completely different argument there. My point is...
So the point is that at the end of the day, the middle class customer, the lower middle class customer is being targeted repeatedly. Vishwas?
No, again I am saying that regulation is okay, but regulation for other overall service charges. But service charge on depositors' money is not acceptable. Because we have to understand the banking, the cost of funds and cost of deposits ultimately decide the rate of interest on the savings and the fixed deposit and the term deposit and all that. Similarly, it is the margin, ultimately how much is, with what rate of interest is money is lent. So, depositors should not be taxed to earn income on their money.
Yes.
Ultimately, the money is being lent and the interest is earned.
I'm letting you hold my money and earn an interest on it.
So that is one thing. Secondly, already 16 lakh crore is a frozen money in the banking system which bankers are not unable to recover, and in that context now you find a earning method of putting taxes to the depositors. This is not acceptable. One more point is All India Bank Employees Association and All India Bank Association in the State Bank of India have decided to observe a demands day on 12th of April to oppose all kinds of service charges by the private sector banks, State Bank of India and other banks, which is unacceptable. So 12th, we are taking the cause of the depositors and we are also signing the writ petition to the Supreme Court and to the RBI, to the government, that you withdraw this kind of a tax.
Absolutely. Or you question these kind of, we just question it. As the banking regulator, RBI, come forward and question it. I have one caller I want you to listen to, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, after which I will give the floor to you. Murli is on the phone line from Bangalore. Murli, go ahead. Tell us your experience.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, ऐसा था कि अभी मेरा बेटा हॉस्टल में पढ़ रहा है, ठीक है, अभी पढ़ रहा है, उसके लिए मैं ATM कार्ड दे के भेज रहा हूँ. Each and every time he draws 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 500 rupees, so each 3 transactions should get over.
तो इतने छोटे-छोटे अमाउंट क्यों विड्रॉ करते हैं आपके बेटे? मुरली सर, आपके बेटे इतने छोटे-छोटे अमाउंट्स क्यों विड्रॉ करते हैं?
अभी हॉस्टल में पढ़ते हैं, एक साथ 1000 रुपए 2000 रुपए रखने से दोस्त बोरो करते हैं एक दूसरे से, फिर टाइम पे दे नहीं पाते. जितना चाहिए उतना कर लेते हैं और हाथ में रखने से अच्छा तो जो बैंक में रहना अच्छा है ना. तो अभी बैंक में रखना ही गलत हो गया है ना. अभी आपके हिसाब से, ऊपर से मेरा पैसे के लिए मैं सैलरी पे करके, मैं टैक्स पे करके, ऊपर से मेरा बेटा उसका जिसके जितना एटीएम यूज होगा उतना 10-10 रुपए पे करते रहेंगे। ये हमसे कमाने के लिए कोई ना कोई रास्ता ढूंढ रहे हैं या ये
मुरली आपको लग रहा है कि आपका बेटा जो है, जो हॉस्टल में पढ़ाई कर रहा है अभी, वो मिनिमम बैलेंस मेंटेन कर पाएंगे 5,000 रुपए या 2,000 रुपए या 1,000 रुपए की?
मैं ही नहीं कर पाता तो वो कहाँ से कर पाएगा? मंथ एंड में हमें सोचते हैं कि और 10,000 कहीं से चाहिए या कुछ ना कुछ, कोई हमसे, अभी हमारे फ्रेंड्स रहते हैं, कोई ना कोई बारह मांगता है, क्या कोई बीमार रहते हैं, कुछ हो जाता है तो देना पड़ता है, हम लेते हैं तो देना भी तो पड़ता है। तो ये पैसा कमाने के लिए सोर्स जनरेट कर रहे हैं, लेकिन पब्लिक के लिए कुछ सर्विस देने के लिए सोच नहीं रहे। और ऊपर से जैसे मलयाली जैसे लोग पैसा लेके भाग गए, उनके लिए वो हमसे रिकवर करने के लिए ट्राई कर रहे हैं। आई रियली कैन अंडरस्टैंड मैम क्या हो रहा है, ये किस लिए अचानक इतना पैसा, किस लिए? 50 रुपए इज अ बिग मनी मैम।
It is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Just to recap to our audience.
अभी हम IT वैट भर रहे हैं, उसके बाद सेल टैक्स भरेंगे, IT भर रहे हैं, उसके बाद सर्विस टैक्स भी भर रहे हैं। ये होटल थोड़ी है या कुछ सर्विस कर रहे हैं, क्या है ये? अभी अचानक अभी 3 लाख रुपए मैं लेके घर में बैठ जाऊं तो मेरे लिए सेफ्टी नहीं है। सेफ्टी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू रख रहे हैं, उसके लिए अभी ATM के लिए हम साल के लिए 150 रुपीज हम उसके सर्विस चार्ज देते हैं।
Right. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, you've heard these voices, and this is simply, our point is simply this. This is what everybody's fundamentally said. The banking business is a very old business. It's an ancient business where I take money from someone, I lend it to somebody else, I make a profit on the difference in the interest. That is the banking business. Are banks unable to run that business anymore, that they have to find new ways to make money, and they're making money out of people who are actually giving them their money in deposits? It makes absolutely no sense. And the simple demand here repeatedly is that the RBI step in and do its job. Gopal Krishna Agarwal.
I want to clarify two things, that most of the callers and the panel discussions which happened, I agree with them that there should be a regulation on the cost that the bank are putting up on the customers. Second thing, I also agree that these costs, though bank have the cost, they have to be shared between the 4 entities that I have told. Government will find out a way where these charges are shared by the 4 persons. The third point I want to make is that Jan Dhan account is out of this purview, and the fourth is that the narration that you people here gave, that all people are not paying taxes, is wrong. Indirect tax is paid by every citizen, a small girl child or anybody, or rickshaw puller, all pay charges, indirect tax in any forms when they buy anything, everything. So tax is paid by everybody, and the government has said that there has to be a cost to be borne by the people who are earning more. These kind of issues have to be tackled, and the banks are also being forced. You see, the government is forcing banks to reduce the loan rate of interest on which they give home loans, they give to priority sector. Government is subsidizing loan to the agriculture sector on the interest. They are subsidizing interest on the housing loan. So there has to be a policy under which sectors are requiring subsidy from the government.
So does that subsidy have to come from us?
The government is subsidizing Jan Dhan account. No, you are
which is fine. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I admire what the government is doing. I admire what the government is doing, and I admire what you said about everybody paying tax. But is it necessary to subsidize out of our bank accounts one more time?
Tax is not the major source of revenue for the government.
So in fact, if I may just say,
direct tax is not the major source of revenue for the government. It is the indirect tax. Every citizen of the country is paying.
My point is,
it was the finance minister who mentioned that very few people in India pay tax.
Yeah, and the argument that very few people in India pay income tax was mentioned by both the finance minister and the prime minister on New Year's Eve in the speech that the prime minister made to the entire country.
That is only for the direct taxes. That is with regard to direct taxes.
Sucheta Dalal, I appreciate the fact that the government is working very hard to bank the unbanked in this country. I also appreciate the fact that that is being done out of tax rupees that we all pay. It is our patriotic duty and the law that we are required to pay taxes, which I'm fine with. Why again, over and above that, in an unregulated, unethical manner, charge me for every movement in my bank account? That is not fair. And all we are saying repeatedly is regulate those charges. Have the RBI do its job, look into those charges, justify those charges if it has to, face the flag for the justification, and then regulate them. Say you can only charge 100 rupees per transaction. Make it the rule, make it the law, and then we will talk about it. But right now, willy-nilly allowing everybody to charge whatever they want, that is anarchy, Sucheta Dalal.
Absolutely. It is completely unacceptable. You just can't keep picking our pockets because you have our money. It's what Dhirendra Kumar has been saying all the time. And I think it has to end, and we the people have to raise our voice, because if you look at it, if a political party becomes a spokesperson for the banking industry and argues that charges have to be divided between 4 people, let us see the other 3 of them showing some discipline. So is the RBI showing any discipline? Is it agreeing that the master circular will be changed only twice a year so that software costs are in control? Is the government going to agree that it will not issue one fatwa every single day and experiment at our cost, which means that software costs increase, which again will be picked from our pocket? It seems to me as though this government has tacitly told banks, "Aap kar lo jo karna hai, we are going to keep quiet, charge the customer, fatten your bottom lines, because we can't solve the NPA problem.
It is not the
we can't
case like
recover
this.
from the Malyas and others
We
of the
are
world.
worried,
So
we
who
are
are the
taking
sitting
care.
ducks? We the customer.
Karthik.
There is no link
Karthik.
between people. Malya is being taken to the task. Even Lalit Modi, Malya, all they are being taken
Which is
to the
not just
task.
Lalit Modi and
Every
Malya,
money will
Mr.
be
Gopal
recovered.
Krishna
NPA
Agarwal.
is a big problem which we have inherited.
Mr. Gopal Krishna
We
Agarwal,
have
there are several
inherited the
NPAs of very
problem.
large companies, none
You
of which are showing
understand,
any intention
we are
to
trying
pay up.
sort them out.
None of which are showing any intention to pay up.
And NPA is the problem which we have inherited. We are sorting out the problem.
You may have, but the banking system has not inherited the NPA problem from anywhere. The banking system has walked into the NPA problem with its eyes open and its hands wide open, looking to make money it was not entitled to. The banking system has made repeatedly bad decisions and lent to people who did not need to be lent to, lent at rates that were completely unfair to the customer, and now refusing to collect from those people, constantly restructuring those loans at our expense.
Not be used to write off NPAs.
Nobody's blaming the government. Nobody's blaming the government. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, my whole point of inviting you to the show is so you carry the pain and the angst that the customer is feeling right now to the government and the regulator. But let us not in any way make excuses for the banking system and what they have going right now with NPAs. I want to bring in Dhirendra Kumar.
Yes.
Dhirendra Kumar, it's not just Vijay Mallya. There are companies currently in the system who are functioning, restructuring their loans over and over again, crores and crores and crores of rupees not being brought to the book, whereas the average customer is being taken advantage of at every corner.
No, this is absolute lack of accountability. I think these are two independent things. Banks are not getting greedy because they have mismanaged their affairs. In fact, the banks which have not done any mistake, they are very profitable, they have lent carefully and they make a lot of money on the spread. They are also getting greedy. Everybody wants to maximize his return. So this is a completely different thing. It is basically the greedy banks, and whether they are mismanaged with their lending portfolio or not is not material. And I think we need the very basic principles of customer protection, and they can't be playing a guardian that you have to put your money. The government actually creates a law that we have to necessarily put our money in the bank, and that is a normal way. In fact, now it has become unlawful for us to be taking a payment of over 2 lakh rupees. So the bank becomes default repository of all my money, and then somebody puts a restriction that every time you take out beyond 3 times in a month, you will be charged. So we need to really define what is the essential service and monitor and rationalize its cost. This can't be a free for all, and I think it must translate into a very significant campaign. Otherwise, and it must be backed by the government. Otherwise, I have full confidence in RBI's ability to do anything about it.
In fact, it's quite simple, because a lot of times what happens is banking customers themselves, they are categorized into various sections. Now, it's quite ironical that the person who's actually doing larger business with you or leaving larger deposits and larger transactions with you is actually not charged anything. But here the problem is that we are squeezing the lower end of the pyramid, and that's where the real problem is.
I mean, just the fact,
RBI has the data.
Just to interrupt you for a second, SBI will not charge you if you leave 25,000 rupees minimum balance. So who are the people you're catering to, Karthik?
Absolutely. So which is where the need for regulation is there, the data is available, the analysis is available. Why don't you just mix everything together? And this is all about intent of the regulator and the banking system to come together and let us really financially include the people who need that inclusion. So in some sense, yes, we are subsidizing Jan Dhan accounts, we are subsidizing the lower balance accounts, but then do it in such a manner that, you know, everybody is going to benefit at the end of the day, have a standard set of rules, and then let the commercial establishments and the 4 pillars actually start actively and proactively contributing.
You know, Gopal Krishna Agarwal pointed out that not all public sector banks are charging, only SBI is. SBI is the largest public sector bank, and it will get progressively larger. So how is it fair that only SBI charge?
The question is the private sector bank has played this ball.
I agree that there is concern of the people.
Okay, go ahead.
The private sector banks have started doing it from 1st March, and now the State Bank of India is doing from the question is, this is India's largest public sector bank. Now all other public sector banks have to fall in line, and then I can tell you the almost 75% of the Indian population which is having accounts in the public sector banks, they will have to pay for all this 4th transaction, and this will become the income source for these public sector banks. That means these banks are not able to earn, do not recover anything from the willful loan defaulters, and now they want to earn from their largest depositors. So this is something absurd, and social banking is lost sight of it. Social banking, which is predominantly the area of professional banking system, now these people are recovering charges from the depositors, and now they are also recovering charges for every transaction tax from the common people. Rich people are not being taxed. Common people are being taxed, and that's why they have to oppose it, and this is not acceptable. So regulation, when we are talking about, regulation has to be from those who are taking the loans, and for them service charges are applicable. For the depositors, it is unacceptable.
It is unacceptable.
That's why the government has to rethink, RBI has to rethink, and that's why we are, as the employee, we have to take up the cause of the depositors. They should get more rate of interest.
The message I want to send out very quickly. Sucheta Dalal, I'll give you a quick a couple of seconds to give a closing statement. The message I want to send out very quickly is 2 things. One is that the RBI must be pressed to do its job. Must be pressed to do its job. The RBI cannot get away with not doing its job. If you cannot regulate, then please set up another regulator if you have to, but you cannot be the RBI and not look out for the customer's interest. The customer's interest is your responsibility. You have banks running amok right now with zero sense of responsibility to their customers, doing whatever they think they can. And it's because the RBI, the police in this entire system, is napping or choosing to look the other way. Sucheta Dalal.
Absolutely fair, because the RBI just does not meet people. This is probably the first time in the last 2.5 years that deputy governors, executive directors, chief general managers in the customer services department, I don't think have met anybody. They don't meet customers, they don't meet NGOs, they do not answer our letters, they don't answer emails. It has never happened before. And again, I keep saying a regulator gets away with this because what they want is happening, right? They've all got a fat pay hike. I'm not grudging that at all. By all means, get it. But why is it that you're not doing your duty by the depositors? We are the largest stakeholders. And I think people who are watching this show need to wake up, because from this entire debate, there is one thing that's clear, that if we, the people, do not raise our voice, you are going to have to keep paying and paying and paying more.
In fact, I have to wrap up this discussion here, but like I have done in the past, and to our panel and to our entire group of viewers, I promise you that until we get a reaction out of the RBI, until we get regulation, we are going to do these shows every fortnight, every 15 days. We will take up this topic again and again and again and again and again, until the RBI is sick of listening to us and actually does something about it. And we're going to push for that action, because all we want you to do, dear RBI Governor and the members of the RBI, is to do your job. Do more, do better, do your job. Go back to the act that puts you in place and look at it. It says that you are supposed to be looking after customer and the customer's interest. When are you going to get around to doing that? At what point will you take cognizance of all of those people whose salaries are in bank accounts, whose pensions are in bank accounts, whose savings are in bank accounts? You cannot ignore us. We are the customer and we will stand up against you. For those people who are watching at home, who feel like you are being robbed, your pockets are being picked, you're being cheated, it's possible because you are being robbed and your pockets are being picked. Our contact details are on your screen. We are going to stand with Sucheta Dalal and the campaign she's running right now to regulate banks finally and the charges that they are putting into our bank accounts. And we stand with them here as Mirror Now. My commitment on this show that we will keep this up until we get a reaction. If you want to get in touch, our contact details are on your screen. Thanks for watching.